The first week of April 2014, two young Dutch women, Lisanne Froon, 22, and Kris Kremers, 21, embarked on an enthusiastic journey from the Netherlands to the lush tropical paradise of Panama. The intention was to do social work while learning Spanish. However, something went terribly wrong during their adventure. They were never heard from again. Join us as we uncover the details of this puzzling story. But before we start our story, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any new stories. Lisanne Froon and Kris Kremers became inseparable friends largely because of their common interests. Both worked in a coffee shop in the Netherlands, their homeland, and even moved in together to save money. The intention was to raise money to do social work around the world, so they began contacting various associations, and it was in Panama where they received a satisfactory response after 6 months of preparation. The first stop was in Bocas del Toro, where they were impressed by the atmosphere. They were ready to start volunteering. After 2 weeks in Bocas del Toro, they moved to Boquete, where their real social work with the children would begin. However, upon arrival, they were told that their work would have to wait another week. There was a mix-up with the calendars, so they were invited to enjoy the extra time. The girls didn't think twice. They decided to take the opportunity to go hiking on the famous El Pianista Trail. They took Azul, the dorm dog, and a few basic belongings, but their destination was uncertain. According to journalists Jeremy Critt and Mariana Atencio, Kris kept a diary in which he wrote his impressions about the change of plans. There, he unloaded his discontent about the lack of communication, in addition to the attitude of the association, whose spokesperson he described as rude and unfriendly. He also added, "Tomorrow they will try to communicate with the director." This was a real disappointment. With this change of plans, all that was left was to make the most of the trip. So, despite the discontent, it was decided they would go to Chiriquí. The El Pianista Trail is one of the most popular trails in Boquete, Chiriquí province. It is about 5 kilometers long and winds its way through the Panamanian jungle. The views are breathtaking, so it attracts thousands of visitors. However, the route lacks good signage. There have been several reported cases of people getting lost, such as Lisanne and Kris. On that day, April 1st, 2014, they did not return with their hosts. They assumed they had stayed with some other adventure partner. A clue announces that something is out of place. Blue, the host's dog, returned home alone. The host family began to worry. That didn't make sense. Regardless of whether the girls had decided to extend their adventure in the jungle, they would not send Azul alone. The day ended with the hope that they would show up in the evening or in the morning. However, time passed, and the hosts contacted Lisanne's mother in the Netherlands to let her know the situation. The host family decides to report the disappearance to state agencies. On April 2nd, a woman reported that she had seen the young women out to lunch with a couple of boys. However, details were conspicuous by their absence. Local authorities' protocol establishes a 96-hour window before initiating a search. Time elapsed, and Panamanian authorities undertook a search for the young women. But among the dwarf cedar, oak, and wild avocado species, no sightings of Lisanne or Kris were seen. Despite search efforts, including helicopters flying overhead and teams scouring the forest, the girls' whereabouts remained a mystery. They left in an unknown direction. They had an agenda because they had booked some other excursions, such as a trip to the Finca Las Princesas and the Baru volcano. But only they knew their complete itineraries. Time continued to pass, and different theories emerged about their disappearance. A local innkeeper recognized the girls on posters. The remote location and inhospitable nature of the Panamanian jungle posed significant challenges for search and rescue teams. The rugged terrain, dense forested areas, and tropical climate complicate the tracking efforts. In addition, the event took place a few weeks into the rainy season, so rising rivers make it difficult to process and preserve possible clues or evidence. These geographic and climatic challenges add complexity to the investigation and prolong the uncertainty of how to speed up the response process. An innkeeper reported that the girls had asked him for some directions, and he had suggested they return to town by cab, although he did not know what decision they had made. On April 6th, the family panics, so they decided to move to Panama, but not before offering a $30,000 reward. The networks were abuzz with theories, and the press reports only alarmed Kris's parents, Rosalie and Hans Kremers. That much more, the family had noticed that hopes were slowly fading, but their arrival in Panama helped to unite forces to increase search efforts. In the absence of clear answers, the press besieged those involved, and numerous theories and speculations arise about what happened. Some suggest the involvement of organized crime, while others point to the possibility of accidents or encounters with dangerous animals in the jungle. These conjectures left investigators with the task of separating fact from fiction. The families decided to fly to Panama, accompanied by special Dutch units to intensify the search. Given the international nature of the case, Panamanian authorities are working closely with international authorities. Information is cross-checked, data is exchanged, the number of experts is increased, and joint efforts are coordinated to address all possible international leads and connections. This international collaboration is essential to explore all possibilities and ensure that no relevant line of inquiry is overlooked. But the absence of the girls persisted. Coverage of the case was crucial in gaining public cooperation and support. The families are concerned and busy appealing for the empathy and sensitivity of anyone who could help them. The authorities also sought to encourage the participation of key witnesses and to encourage people to provide any relevant information they may have. Media, social networks, and other channels are used to disseminate details about the case. The dissemination of information kept the case alive, and they finally have a valuable lead. After 10 weeks of searching, a crucial find offered a sliver of hope. On June 9th, an indigenous woman who is part of the Ngebe Indian tribe found a backpack as she was passing along the Culebra River, an hour's plane ride from the girls' starting point. The woman said the find was among the trees. She had seen the missing persons ads and decided to bring the backpack to the authorities. The backpack turned out to be Lisanne's backpack. Inside were found 2 pairs of sunglasses, over $80, the girl's passport, a camera, a bottle of water, 2 bras, and lastly, perhaps most interestingly, 2 phones. This discovery baffles the authorities and raises questions about the situation in which the young women were at the time of their disappearance, as well as possible clues to their whereabouts. With the equipment in their possession, authorities began a call trace. These inquiries revealed multiple attempted calls to authorities in the Netherlands and to Panamanian authorities. There were 7 attempted emergency calls. The first outgoing call was logged on April 1st from Kris's iPhone at 4:39 p.m. 12 minutes later, Lisanne attempted to contact the authorities from her Samsung phone, but all evidence suggests they were in an area with no coverage. As with the phones, the camera's graphic content was analyzed. More than 100 photographs had been taken during the girls' final moments. The first images showed them happily at Pianist's Lookout, but later photos placed them deeper in the jungle instead of returning. The last image captured Kris crossing a river on an indigenous trail. Then no records appeared until April 8th. One unsettling image seemed to show the back of Kris's head, possibly with blood near her temple. The streets filled with speculation, and police questioned locals and tourists alike, yet the enigma persisted. A quiet brunch shared with 2 Dutchmen before their jungle hike became a focal point. However, no solid information about these individuals emerged, and detectives found no significant leads. The expected breakthrough failed to materialize, leaving the case at a standstill. "We have to set the record straight for the victim's sake," said local guide Plinio Montenegro. Authorities, under pressure, eventually ruled that Kris and Lisanne's deaths resulted from an accident while en route. Experts theorized that they fell from a great height, sustaining fatal fractures. When something like this happens in a small town, its inhabitants feel responsible, Montenegro told journalist Jeremy Critt. Most tourists reach the Mirador, take photos, and return the same way. "We don't know why the Dutch women didn't," he added. Having led search efforts, he remained puzzled by their route. Despite the court's ruling of an accident, the reconstruction remained circumstantial. The theory suggested Lisanne perished while trying to escape the jungle, leaving Kris behind. Their remains, washed away by the Rio La Culebra, were scattered across the area. Many believed Panamanian authorities conducted a superficial investigation, aiming to provide a resolution rather than uncover the full truth. The case remains an unsettling mystery, with unanswered questions lingering over what truly happened to Kris and Lisanne. The lack of damage to the recovered devices raised suspicions, yet authorities did not investigate further. The Kremers family lawyer Enrique Arocha voiced concerns over the handling of the case. Since independent media lacked access to full case files, journalists Jeremy Critt and Maria Atencio traveled to Panama to retrace Kris and Lisanne's steps. A year later, authors Maria West and Jürgen Snoren read Critt's research, which considered third-party involvement. They questioned whether sufficient evidence existed to reach a conclusion. Determined to uncover the truth, they began their own investigation. Kris and Lisanne might be alive, they theorized. Their search led them to Amsterdam detective Dick Steffens, who was independently investigating the case. His findings were shocking. Steffens believed the girls had fallen victim to human trafficking and insisted the Panamanian authorities' investigation contained too many inconsistencies. Despite Steffens's claims, authorities and the victims' families dismissed his conclusions. As the book was being written, further research demonstrated that the Bouquet authorities had done everything possible to find Kris and Lisanne, even under international scrutiny. For their book, West and Snoren consulted behavioral scientists, indigenous people, witnesses, police, lawyers, pathologists, search teams, survival experts, and forensic psychiatrists. Initially intended as a fictional work, their research revealed that many witnesses tailored facts to their own narratives rather than presenting the truth. Prosecutor Betsaida P.D. Kerud contributed to reconstructing the events from multiple perspectives. The influence of tourism in Panama cast a shadow over the case. Experts suggested authorities may have prioritized protecting the country's tourism industry over seeking the truth. Adela Correa lamented that authorities seemed more concerned with reputation than human lives, concluding that Kris and Lisanne simply perished in an accident was far more convenient than acknowledging a possible crime. They were not alone. The case remained in the public eye thanks to the press, YouTubers, and bloggers who sought justice. Supporters created an online book of condolences and ensured victim assistance specialists were assigned to help the families cope with their anguish. The jungle held its secrets. Since Kris and Lisanne's disappearance, other tourists had gone missing or met a similar fate. Conspiracy theories flourished as investigators revisited the case, determined to piece together the truth. Even Panamanian authorities became embroiled in renewed scrutiny as online communities united in search of justice. Speculation persisted. Had the girls fallen prey to violence, or were they victims of nature's unforgiving terrain? The only certainty was that two vibrant young women embarked on a 6-week journey from which they never returned. Hopes now rest on an upcoming documentary to finally bring clarity to the mystery.